Hello friends, today we are here to discuss sitting tolerance in children. As far as we go, we know if we are in a meeting, we used to be in a classroom, for our daily chores of eating, dressing, bathing, we used to just sit down automatically, and it never occurred to us how natural it was or how important sitting tolerance was. But with kids who have autism or hyperactivity or attention issues or maybe some kind of sensory or behavioral issues that they find difficult to deal with, these kids tend to run a lot, fidget a lot, and sometimes even if they learn to settle down in their homes, in different social settings, they are not really comfortable. So, what parents really tell is, the sitting tolerance of my child is 15 to 30 seconds only. How do I get my child to sit down, even for as simple a thing as playing? Our overall postural alignment, which is very much related to body awareness, which kind of lacks in these children. They're not aware of their body orientation with respect to the environment, with respect to the people around, and that's why you will realize they don't even sometimes respect the personal space of people. Then there could be some sensory stimuli in the environment like light, sound, smell, touch, even the pressure of the seat. They're not really comfortable with these overwhelming sensations and they feel the need to run or fidget. If you're not comfortable in a chair, we do tend to shift, don't we? And so these kids are just doing that, but to a higher extent than usual. It is really important to understand what is the specific reason for which the child is really moving. Is it a vestibular seeking child? If your OT has really identified, your occupational therapist has really assessed that that is a need of the child. So movement-based activities like sitting on a gym ball or wedges or cushions that are a bit bouncy, and even playing fun games like, swiping the hands like a rainbow, so actually drawing a rainbow and making the child swipe them. So that's an amazing movement to do. Even it's fun for us. But if it's the matter of core muscle strength, then activities like wheelbarrow walk, crab walk, or even as simple as, if the child of course has imitation skills, to practice some yoga asanas where the child simply has to assume different postures, and that kind of movement will relax the child. And finally, the third category could be you simply want the child to have attention. There are attention issues in the child. So in those cases, you can engage the child in simple games like Connect 4 or puzzle games, whatever the child is interested in, so that you can make him focus. Involve the thing. For example, in case of Play-Doh, you can make the child try to make alphabets or standing or sleeping lines, different kind of shapes with that. You can put a timer. So when the timer goes off, the child is allowed to move around. And that is what we call as a movement break. Allow the child to run for a while, bring it down to the level of walking slowly, and then finally to the point where the kid probably just stands up and then again sits down. Their anxiety is less while doing that activity, but it also increases their confidence and they are more likely to sit down for a longer duration for it. There is another school of thought that goes along the idea of using weighted things like weighted vests on the child, weight cuffs on the child, or use of weighted blankets for the child to calm them down. But again, some kids have actually shown that they become overexcited once they are out of it, or some kids may even settle down. Other than this, some kind of chewable items, crunchy items that the child enjoys to eat can be given. Of course, not sweets, as I always say, but some chewable items can also help. Also, some other interesting general activities can be used with them. For example, pasting on some patterns or some kind of sparkles that can be placed if the kid enjoys messy play. So you can do finger painting kind of activities, which really can help the child enjoy more, or some kind of water play. But as I said earlier, always set a timer so that the child knows when he or she has to stop. And finally, a few tips that might help your child to settle down. So for example, the effect of any kind of medications the child is on, the time of the day when the child has more of a tendency to move around, during the routines. So for example, your child takes time to sleep or just before going to school or classroom. At that time, you can provide these sensory activities or all those activities which will help the child to settle down more. Don't try to raise your voice because they have some sensory needs they will not understand. If you shout at them, try to threaten them, have those emotional outbursts, the child is just going to imitate you and show those outbursts themselves, not understand the meaning of them, and at the end you're not going to achieve anything. So if you really want your child to settle down, what you can simply do is place a hand on their shoulder and just tell them, let's try and sit down together and get the child to relax. It's okay if the child takes a few seconds or even a minute to understand what you're trying to make them do. Give your child the time. The reaction has to come from the child. If you're just forcing the child into sitting, it's really not going to happen. So try to use all these tips that we have discussed today for developing sitting tolerance in children, and let me know in the comments below how useful this information was for you. And keep telling me what other problems that you want me address in this particular channel of Road to Rehab. We will meet again.